it's Lauren,
And Brianna.
and you're listening to Social Workers on Fire. So, last podcast, we had Chief Holloway kind of explain the background of how EMS prevention came to be. And so today, me and Brianna are just going to run through kind of where EMS prevention is at now and what we do on a day-to-day basis and how we've grown. So, I guess we'll just kind of start from the beginning, and Brianna can kind of tell us about how we get referrals.
Okay, so each year we do a training with our firefighters. And so we go around to every shift, every station, and we train our firefighters on what to be looking for in order to send us a referral. And so that training just consists of us explaining in detail any kind of medical, mental health, or social need that your patient may have that could use a follow-up. And so they receive that training, and so they are well versed on what they're looking for. And so they have a couple of different ways that they can refer to us. And so the first way is through the system that they document their run reports in. And in that system, there is an option for every 911 call for them to select EMS prevention follow-up. And so I have access to that, and I'm able to pull that report each month to see who they request for us to follow up on. The second way is for them to send us an email. So we have an EMS prevention email that goes to both Lauren and I, and they can send us the information through there. And then we also have a website now, and so we have a referral portal on the website where they can enter in information. And then, of course, sometimes they just pop in our office and are like, hey, we have a referral for you, and we just take it face to face. And then they both have our numbers, and so they can call us and send us referrals that way.
Yeah, and I think what's so cool is it started out, right, the program, and it's still the heart of our program is referrals from the firefighters, and that's our main goal is to reduce those 911 calls. But 911 calls not only affect the firefighters, it's affecting our ambulance company, right? And it's affecting the hospital with the overcrowding. And so now even our referrals are coming from our ambulance company, which is called North Star. So North Star is now emailing us or calling us and giving referrals. And DCH case managers, because they're helping in the hospital and you're getting your discharge papers, but they're going home and they're not being able to see them in the home and follow up on that. And so now they're referring to us like, hey, this is a frequent flyer, a frequent person in the hospital. And they're referring to us so that we can go in and follow up afterwards. And so it's just grown so much from that to be able to just help the whole community. And so after we get those referrals, we try to make contact. And so I'll get Brianna to kind of explain what that looks like.
Yeah, so from the point of receiving the referral, we do ask that they give us the patient's name, phone number, and address. And so we like to have a phone number because we like to be able to call them and explain who we are, how we got their information, and what we do. And so once we get that information, we give them a call and explain the program. And that phone call, I'll just kind of give you a little example. I usually say, hey, this is Brianna. I'm a social worker with Tuscaloosa Fire Rescue. I work with a program called EMS Prevention, and we are a division within the fire department. And our goal is to follow up with people after their 911 call and connect them to any services or resources that they may need. And our other goal is also to reduce the patient's need for 911 or having to visit the hospital. Because we typically know that people, usually don't like to have to call 911 or go to the hospital. So we don't bill your insurance. We don't bill you. If you don't have insurance, you don't even have to have insurance. And so we're just basically here to just help you out any way that we can. And so usually after we give them that spiel, when they find out that it's not going to cost them anything and we're just here to help, 95 or better percent of the time, the person will agree for us to schedule. And so from that point, we schedule a time to go out to their home and do what we call a biopsychosocial assessment, which we'll get to later. And so on our first visit, we complete the assessment. The goal of the assessment is to identify all of the gaps in their care and to find ways to meet those needs. And so we identify all of their needs, we set goals with them, and then from there we follow up weekly, bi-weekly, just depending on how high needs the patient is, until we meet all of their goals and, of course, have been able to reduce their need for calling 911.
Yeah, and I think what I love about our program is that, so let's say the firefighters didn't get a phone number, or we call them and they don't answer the phone, and we leave voicemails and they don't call us back. We're not going to give up, right?
No.
So we go out there, we are super persistent. We go out and drive to their home and try to locate them and leave. We have like a door hanger. We leave a door hanger like, hey, I was here. Give me a call. I just want to help. So it takes quite a while before we just call them what we call lost to no contact. Basically, we couldn't get a hold of them at all. But we try for quite some time to get a hold of them. And even if we can't, we wait 30 days, run their address again, see if they call 911 again, because we are just not going to give up on these people, because we are trying to reduce their overuse of the 911 system. And another thing that I really love about us is we go out in the home for their visits. So these visits aren't them having to come to us, right? Because here in Alabama and Tuscaloosa especially, like, transportation's a huge issue.
Yes.
And so if we force them to come to us, it just wouldn't be as successful as it is. And so all of our visits are done in their home. And that just helps break that barrier of transportation to get them the services they need. And we typically, between the two of us, we make about 5 home visits each, so 10 home visits a day, sometimes more, sometimes less. It always just depends.
Mhm.
But yeah, so then we get in there, and like Brianna said, that very first visit, we do the biopsychosocial. And so I know some of y'all out there are not social workers listening, and you're kind of like, what is a biopsychosocial?
Yes.
So Brianna will kind of explain what all that entails.
Yeah, so a biopsychosocial is a very comprehensive, holistic assessment of the client's biological, psychological, and social factors and how it's affecting basically their well being. Because we have found that if you have a medical issue, sometimes the root of the problem is a social need. And if you are lacking in a social need like transportation, sometimes you're calling 911 because it's a medical issue. So you don't have transportation to get to dialysis. So the root of the issue is a medical need, but a social need is the barrier. And so this assessment really gives us a good deep dive into everything, even starting from childhood, because it's important to note that our client's story doesn't start on the date of our first visit with them. Their story started from day one of their life. And a lot of times we also find that their childhood may actually even be what is affecting their 911 calls. And by that, I mean, we have a lot of clients that have experienced trauma during childhood, and that's led to a 911 call at this point that is chest pain, but the root of the issue is debilitating anxiety from the childhood trauma that was never resolved. And so this assessment is something that I created and have built into our electronic health record system, and we do it on every single new patient. It takes about an hour to do. But when we are able to get the full story and all of that information from the very first time that we meet them, that gives us a really good vision on where we wanted to go with this client and what barriers we need to try to break down for them.
Yeah, I think it's so cool when as you're doing it, you came in and you knew maybe their referral was for chest pain or their referral was for lift assist. But as you start to go through that biopsychosocial and you dig into every aspect of their life, including, like Brianna said, their childhood trauma, it's like all of a sudden you'll see something within those questions that it clicks. It's like, this is it. This is why this is happening. And here's what we can do to rectify that and to make it better. And so every patient and client is different, but I just love when you get that aha moment, like, all right, I've pinpointed it,
Yeah.
I figured it out, and now let's take those next steps and figure out what we need to do. And like Brianna kind of mentioned earlier, whenever she calls and explains our program, is that we don't bill them and we don't bill their insurance. And I think that's another part that makes our program so successful.
Absolutely.
Because of course people are excited, like, oh, free? I'm
Yeah.
all about that.
Yes.
they're gonna sign me up.
Yes.
But on top of that, we see where like home health companies with social workers, they're wonderful social workers, but because they're having to bill insurance, they're limited to 1 or 2 visits with these patients, and you just can't cover everything they need and get it all done in 1 to 2 visits, unfortunately. And so the fact that we're able to go in as frequently as needed, as long as needed, it just completely makes it so much better. It changes the game because now it's not, oh, they gave me all these papers and they left and I never heard from them again and I never saw them again. It's like, we're going to follow up. We're going to sit here while you're on that wait list for a few months. And we're going to help you until you get off that wait list. So I think that's huge too, to making it so successful. So once we meet all those goals, kind of what happens then?
So termination is actually a big process in social work. And for all of you social workers, I know that something that you learned even in your BSW is, you need to kind of keep termination in the back of your mind, because we have to be careful as social workers not to be enablers. And that can be really hard to balance sometimes, because when we get clients, like we've mentioned before, if they're calling 911, they probably don't have anyone else. And so we become that main support system for them. And so we have to be very careful. There's a fine line of meeting them halfway and them understanding that they have to give us the other half in order for this to work. And so after we meet those goals, then we move towards termination. And so we have a couple of visits where we like to just kind of make sure that everything is in place, and we are usually checking their 911 calls as we're following up, just to make sure that they are reducing their need for 911. But once they meet their goals and we have got them connected to services, sometimes it can be a smooth handoff to another agency that's going to provide a more long-term care service. But once we meet their goals and everything that we establish on that initial visit at their biopsychosocial, we do terminate the client and close their case.
Yeah, and I think a common question we get is, okay, how long are your cases usually open? And look, I know why y'all want those answers, the statistics of it, but the fact is, especially if you're a social worker, you know this, like, it so varies.
There's no way for us to give you an answer. It's different with every single client.
Yes, one may be open for only 2 months. Maybe they just had a little quick fix, and others maybe a year, over a year.
Exactly.
It really depends. So unfortunately, we can't give y'all that answer.
Another thing I wanted to mention, just to kind of piggyback off of what I was talking about with this smooth handoff. One thing that I've noticed since I've been here is a lot of clients have trouble letting us go. And so we're at the end of the ropes with them. They have met all of their goals. We have found solutions for all of their needs and gaps in care. But they are just not wanting to agree to close. And so a lot of times that comes with more of the elderly population. And so what we see and what we have noticed is that they are lonely. And sometimes we have people calling 911 because they're lonely. And so they may not have family, or they may have family that just simply doesn't come visit them. And so as a way to kind of combat that loneliness and provide them with a more smooth handoff, we have created what we call an Adopt a Grandparent program. And so this is a program where we partner with the University of Alabama, and we accept student interns, and they are able to, quote, adopt a grandparent or adopt one of our clients, senior citizen clients, and go out and visit them in the home and play games, or just, kind of hang out and meet that socialization that these people are really longing to have. And so we've had a lot of success with this program. We've had positive reports from both clients and students, and they both feel that it is just such a blessing to be a part of something like this. And so that was a way that we were able to hand off those clients that just weren't ready to let us go just for the visitation aspect.
Yeah.
And so we have been really excited to just watch that program continue to grow as well.
It's definitely been honestly just so cute to watch.
Yes.
I mean, we had one volunteer come in and she's like, well, can I take him to my sorority house to eat lunch? And we're like, I mean, shoot, if you want to, go ahead, you know? And so just watching them get to have this newfound joy of doing stuff they haven't done in a while. Like I know one of my clients was saying, I love to bowl, but I don't have anyone to bowl with, and I haven't been bowling in forever. And the girl's like, let's go bowling, like, you know? And so it's been so much fun, and I think it's just brought so much joy and positivity to their lives.
To both parties.
Both, definitely. The pictures they send us is just so cute. So we also, on top of Adopt a Grandparent, we also have what we call social work hubs that we do once a month. And I think this part really just touches on the prevention aspect. And so with social work hubs, we go into high-risk areas in the community, usually like low-income apartment complexes, and we set up there on the spot and provide resources to people for whatever they might need. And Brianna's been doing this for quite some time, so she can probably explain it way better than me. So I'm gonna let her kind of give some details on that.
Yeah, so like Lauren said, the goal of a social work hub is to really hone in on the prevention aspect of our program. And so we reach out to different areas that we notice the firefighters are frequently responding to. Sometimes we even set up in parks. You know, we're not really opposed to where we go, but the goal of this event is for us to provide on the spot information about any need that any participant has. And so we usually have light refreshments and maybe a door prize as incentives, but the goal of having everyone come out is for them to have the opportunity to sit down with us one-on-one and say, hey, look, I am struggling this month with food. Where is the nearest food pantry to my house? And by the way, my dad's living with me right now and he's in a wheelchair and I really need to get him to the doctor, but we don't have wheelchair accessible transportation. Who provides that? And so they just get to spend as long as they want to with us. And we have a rolling cart alphabetized from A to Z with every resource that we are aware of. And so we just sit there and just kind of nail down all of the gaps in their care. And it's just kind of like a mini visit with us, but just out in the community.
A quick biopsychosocial,
Yes.
except not that detailed.
Right.
But when Brianna started this, she came out there with some tables, some tents, popped it up. What's so cool now is that we recently, about a year ago?
Yeah.
Got a mobile trailer. And so this trailer, we're able to store non-perishable foods. We're able to store hygiene items, toilet paper, paper towels, bedding, clothes, medical equipment. I mean, it's huge, y'all. And it's awesome. And so when we're out there and someone says like, I don't have shoes, or I really need a new shirt or a jacket, I'm cold, whatever, we're able to go in there on the spot and give it to them instead of like, hey, well, maybe I'll try and here's my phone number, I'll call you later, and then they don't pick up or the phone's disconnected or whatever. We're able to right there on the spot and meet that need and provide it. And I think it's just so awesome and such a big change that we've added.
Yes. And another aspect of the trailer, and this is something that we kind of started during COVID, but during COVID, a lot of the providers were resorting to telehealth appointments only. And so a lot of the clients on our caseload did not have access to do a telehealth appointment. They did not have internet, did not even have a smartphone. Some don't even have phones. And so it just wasn't an option for them to see their doctor if telehealth wasn't available. And so during the pandemic, I would go out to their home and set up in their yard, and we would take my laptop and my hotspot, and we would allow clients to be able to do telehealth appointments with their providers. And so, to kind of upgrade from popping a tent in the yard, we have also designed our trailer where the front part of our trailer is kind of like a little office area. And so, if we're ever out in the community, we do have that option for the clients to participate in any telehealth appointments that they need to with our mobile unit now. So,
Yes, I think it's awesome. It's great. We're just growing.
yes, we are.
Well, y'all, thank you for listening to our third episode of Social Workers on Fire. And for our next episode, we plan to bring in a firefighter or two and kind of explain their side of the story, how they got here, and what changes they've seen now that EMS prevention is in place. We hope you'll tune in.